Scooterheads, can you believe it? We are well into the year 2022. My prediction for this year, insomniacs are going to march in the streets and cancel the word woke in calling people woke. It's just a prediction. We're going to start off this episode with a little bit of news, and it just happens to be international news from one of my favorite countries to vacation, Thailand.
Tonight, Bangla Boxing Stadium. The main stadium of Phuket. Start 9 p.m. Start 9 p.m.
I recorded that little piece of audio as I was walking down the street in Phuket. If you couldn't tell what he was saying Bangla. I think that's the name of an area in Phuket. And he was saying starting at 9 p.m. I don't know why he said Ga Phuket. Ga means island. If he's saying everything in English, why didn't he just say Phuket Island or just Phuket? But in case you were confused there, that's what he's saying. And this is where the news is going to start off on this episode of the Electric Scooter Podcast. To set the stage a little bit, here's what's happening in Phuket now. Phuket is an island, the largest island in Thailand. It's on the Andaman Sea side, so the Indian Ocean side, basically, not the Pacific. And it's a big tourist destination. I've been there a number of times over the years. It's where the giant tsunami that they made movies about was a huge, sad tragedy, but they've recovered. And since they are an island during this time of the C word, as Carl McLarty called it in our last interview, the last episode of the Electric Scooter Podcast, during these times of the C word, they, being the government of Thailand, instituted a program called the Sandbox because Phuket is an island and it's very touristy, and they do have an international airport, so they figured they would lighten up a little bit on some of the restrictions, and you fly there for a week, stay in an authorized hotel, and then you're free to roam Thailand. You don't have to do the multiple testing like you do in Bangkok and other parts of the country. They have 4 regions where you can fly in, stay a week, and then you're off to the races. You're having fun in Thailand. Thailand is hurting right now, being a big touristic country. They are losing millions upon millions of dollars, so they're trying different schemes to keep their population safe, but still try to get back to business a little bit. And what I'm about to tell you in the news is probably not a good way to get into business. Let me start off by telling you about a police major general named Pawin Pongsiri. He was a chief investigator looking into Rohingya. That's a minority in Burma that's very much abused and mistreated. But they've been subjects of trafficking quite a bit, human trafficking. And this Major General Pawin Pongsiri was involved in that. And prior to that, here's your Phuket tie-in, he investigated a supposed, alleged, probably true, racket of a group of criminals, I guess you'd say. They're just a powerful, I don't know if you'd call them a gang or a circle or sort of a transportation crime syndicate. Anyway, it's a group of people who ride these little things called tuk-tuks. It's like a motorcycle, but it's got a place for passengers to sit on the back. And I believe it involved these Jeeps they call songtail that go up and down the streets, and you jump on board and you give them what's equivalent to about 50 cents, and then you hop off when you're ready to hop off. They had some kind of racket going, and apparently they're very influential, so much so that a police major general, a powerful man in the police, which I'm pretty sure in Thailand is national, as opposed to being local, they were able to threaten him to the point that he got out of Phuket. He got involved in the Rohingya human trafficking, and they threatened him and his family, all these different crime groups. And I think there might have been a little bit of him insinuating maybe that people in the Thai government were complicit. But so much so, the threats were so strong and he was so afraid that he emigrated to Australia back in 2015. Well, why am I telling you this big story? What has it got to do with electric scooters? Here's what it's got to do with electric scooters. People, including your host, Dagwood Streets, are a little bit upset. Is that the word? A little bit bemused, but also kind of upset. The police there in Phuket started arresting tourists riding electric scooters. These are rental scooters. Now, they might have been a nuisance. I don't know. Were they up on the sidewalk, dodging in and out of traffic, flipping off babies, flicking cigarette butts at gas stations? I don't know what they were doing. I don't know. All those things that I just listed, probably not. But who knows? They might have been calling attention to themselves. I don't know. But what they were arrested for was driving unregistered vehicles. These are scooters that they rented from a company. It looked like I saw the scooters themselves. They were blue. It looked like it said Beam, BEAM on it, but that wasn't part of the news. I just happened to see that in passing. So they're riding these scooters that that they paid for, that they had rented from a scooter company on the island of Phuket. Did the police arrest, fine, say anything to the company that's renting them? No. And the charge they had, it wasn't reckless driving or putting people in danger or anything like that. The charge was riding or driving. I don't know what the wording is. It was probably Thai. Unregistered vehicles. But guess what? You don't register scooters in Thailand. There's no law that says you have to, and there's no way to do it. If they would have walked in to the Department of Motor Vehicles with these scooters that they had just rented, as preposterous as that is, and said, hey, we want to register these, they would have been looked at with shrugs. They would have been greeted by people who would tell them, we don't register scooters in Thailand. Yet they got arrested for riding unregistered vehicles. The officers confiscated the scooters and started threatening legal action. A lot of people want to know why the police didn't go arrest the people that are running the scooter rental businesses. Well, my brother's uncles, sisters, cousins, nephews, neighbors, dog's master lives down the street from him or whatever. Is there some kind of connection there? I don't know. Is it part of the transportation mafia, for lack of a better word? Who knows? I just know what I'm hearing in the news. According to a report from Nation Thailand, the Patong police station has confirmed that the use of electric scooters is banned due to the risk to other users of the road and the danger to scooter riders themselves. In addition, while the tourists were arrested for riding unregistered vehicles, the police confirmed it's not possible to register electric scooters under the existing laws of the Phuket Provincial Land Transportation Office.
The main stadium of Phuket.
So while it remained unclear exactly who the bad guys were that ran Police Major General Pongcity and his family out of Thailand and caused him to emigrate to Australia for fear of him and his family's life, there's two big suspects there. One would be the human traffickers, and the other would be, I don't know. I think it's pretty less likely that the transportation mafia, the tuk-tuk drivers and that in Phuket would threaten him, but who knows? I don't know. You know, bad guys, who can predict? And I may be just a simple, unfrozen caveman podcaster, but I would suppose if you are a nation trying to lure tourists back to your country, I don't know, maybe arresting them for not registering their scooters that they rented and are not registerable. Maybe that is, it's not a big lure for people to go to Thailand. I wouldn't think. But hey, what do I know? The Electric Scooter Podcast news. It's good for you. Sprinkle it on your cereal in the morning. It's delicious. It'll make you more attractive to the opposite sex. ESPN. Electric Scooter Podcast. Podcast news. ESPN. Yeah, PN, that stands for Podcast News, which is what you were listening to. Let me bring you a little bit up to speed in case you weren't with us for last episode. If you weren't, maybe you ought to go back and listen to it. It was Carl McLarty of McLarty Films, and we hung out at CES. Later on, I texted him and said, hey, you do virtual reality videos, and you make videos of all kinds of interesting stuff. How many videos have you made of off-road scooters? And, the answer to that, of course, was crickets. So I proposed, hey, how about an off-road scooting video? And he produced one. If you want to look it up on YouTube, just look up Cabo Wolf Warrior. That's Kaabo. The word gnarly, Gnarly, and off-road. So if you put in Cabo Wolf Warrior, gnarly, off-road, and then it's like desert ride or something like that. I actually made my own video because I brought some cameras out, and you can watch them side by side. It's kind of interesting. Non-professional podcaster, not a YouTuber, making a video, and then a professional, someone who's highly skilled in the video arts, putting together his. And his is only 2 minutes long, so check it out. Go to the Dagwood Streets YouTube channel and watch them one after the other. I would watch mine first and then his, because you might get disappointed watching mine after watching his. We left the conversation last week on, I hesitate to call it a cliffhanger, but I've done this before. I've taken people out to ride scooters who are not Scooterheads. Many who have never had a single ride on a scooter. And I think that was Carl's situation also. He'd never ridden a scooter. He said the closest thing he rode was a GS 500 Suzuki motorcycle. But he is skilled in the martial arts, and he knew how to tuck and roll and everything. I put him on a beast scooter, the Cabo Wolf Warrior, and we went out to some areas of the desert where there are mountains. There are slim trails on the side of the mountain to where if you fall, it's going to be bad, because you're not going to just fall and get hurt. You're going to fall, and then tumble way down the mountain. And then we went through some areas that I call washboards because they go up and down, up and down. He said those were his favorites. But we each ate it 3 times, so a total of 6 wipeouts, 2 of which were captured fairly well on film. He wasn't filming me when I ate it, and I wasn't filming him when he ate it on the good ones, but the body cameras that we were wearing picked it up. I was actually seeing double. I was going downhill, and my front tire got wedged into a rock and forced it to go to the left a little bit, and then I endoed, and I went end over end, and I ended up, my helmet, a showy full-face motorcycle helmet, slammed against a rock, which literally had me seeing double. You know, in the cartoons, the cartoon characters will see stars after they hit something, hear birds tweeting and all that kind of stuff. I didn't get any of that, but the seeing double thing is real. I was seeing double. And if you watch the videos, you'll see both of those wipeouts. And when you notice Carl's wipeout, he did this beautiful, tucked his right shoulder and tumbled. And I'm sure it didn't tickle. I'm sure he wasn't ready to jump up and do it again. But the way he landed was way better than the way I landed. And he came out almost unscathed, let's say. And on the last episode of the Electric Scooter podcast, which was episode 61, he gave out a tip that I thought was amazing. If you haven't been on 2 or 4 wheels for a long time, we're both adults, okay? I hesitate to say mature adults, but we're adults, and we're jumping back on things that we haven't done since we were a kid. Your brain tells you, I can handle this, man. When I was a kid, I used to tear it up on the skateboard. I used to tear it up on my bicycle. And your brain essentially writes a check that your body can't cash. So here's what Carl recommended. This was for skateboards, but I'm sure it would work for scooters. Ride on grass, nice fluffy grass, and get used to tumbling. You can also just get on the grass, and the scooter doesn't have to be moving, and jump off of it and tuck and roll. I know a lot of people aren't going to want to do that, but I just thought it was a good idea that I'd never heard before. So what was the cliffhanger? And it wasn't really a cliffhanger, but people who don't have a lot of experience with scooters, I like to ask them, did you get bit by the bug? You going to go out and buy one now? What was your impression of people who ride scooters, Scooterheads, prior to riding and after riding? And he's going to answer those questions and more. So here he is, Carl McLarty from McLarty Films. We're back with Carl McLarty of the Streetwise English Podcast and McLarty Films. And this part of the episode, I'd like to ask you kind of a 2 or 3 part question. Now that you have ridden a scooter and you've ridden sort of the medium level scooter with a single motor, and you've ridden the beast scooter, what are your impressions? What were your impressions of people who scoot or scooters in general before you got on one? What are your impressions now? And is there any possibility that there might be a scooter in your future? But the majority of people, to be honest, scooters are not for them. So just be honest.
Yeah, okay. So let me first say, to be honest, my first impression for scooters is I heard they kind of have a bad rap, like down in Venice Beach in California. I used to live down there, and I guess, I don't know, is it Snapchat or something? They kind of took over Venice for a while, and then they're riding around and they're riding everywhere in their damn scooters. And I heard the locals complaining about the scooters.
Right. People were like throwing them in the water, and
they were. They were throwing them in the canals, and they're just like explicative, damn scooters. So it kind of rubbed off on me, and I didn't really know anything about them. And scooters aren't as cool as like motorcycles or as electric skateboards, but they are very functional. And I can see that you could basically, the distance of those scooters, I was surprised when you told me that they can go, some of them can go like 20 miles or?
40, 50,
40,
60
50 miles round trip.
It depends, you know, a $500 scooter, some of them will get you 12 miles. So you can't go anywhere 6 miles, more than 6 miles if you want to get back. And it's incredible that how you ride makes such a difference. For the Cabo Wolf Warrior, if you keep it below 25 miles an hour, you'll go a lot. Also, how much do you weigh? Are you going uphill or downhill? What is the wind? So, you know, you could squeeze 50 miles out of one. When we came back, we were over 80% battery, for example, and we were going up hills, and we were really challenging those scooters.
My kung fu skills are well regarded throughout the land, and I listen to the Electric Scooter Podcast.
There hasn't been a movie starring Marlon Brando where a bunch of guys on scooters take over a town in California. You know what my favorite line from what was it called? The Wild Ones? You know what my favorite line is? No. The sheriff sees Johnny, who's drinking a beer or a soda pop or something at the bar. He's like, "So Johnny, I hear you're a rebel." And Marlon Brando just kind of nods his head. And he goes, "Well, what are you rebelling against exactly?" He takes his time. He looks up at him. He kind of squints and goes, "What do you got?" Best line ever from any movie. So no, scooters and Scooterheads don't have that cool background for people to associate.
Yeah, from like the 80s. Like I remember, like Rad was the ultimate BMX movie. Did you ever see that, Rad?
I have not.
Oh man, yeah. Actually, I met the guys in, is it Huntington Beach, or I can't remember, but they're still around, and those guys are like in their maybe 50s, maybe almost 60, and they're still doing like handstands on the handlebars. They're still doing impossible tricks after all these years, and they say that riding the bikes keep them young. But I was just saying that, yeah, there haven't been a really cool scooter movie.
Mountain bikes and skateboards and surfing, all cool.
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
according to custom or according to American society. But scooters, yeah, not so much.
Well, not yet, right?
Not yet, yeah. Maybe we'll be the one, you know. Hey, who's the first person making scooter music?
Yeah, let's talk about that, the scooter music. Yeah, what I was really impressed with the tunes. I mean, you've got basically, what was the song I cut to was "Riding My Scooter."
Riding my scooter, riding my scooter. You know how long it took me to think up those lyrics?
2 weeks.
About 8 seconds. Let's see. A song about riding my scooter. What should we call it? And what should I say in the song? I've got it. Riding my scooter, riding my scooter.
Yeah. I like cutting to that song. And when I edit videos, you know, the music is always the foundation for everything. And I loved your bass line in there. And there you had some kind of, I don't have the words to express it, but when the bass was kind of like pulsing, boom, boom, and then I cut that to the washboards a little bit.
Right. It's dynamics. I always try to put into my music where you have some layered stuff. You have keyboards, guitar, bass going at once. But if one thing you'll see consistently in almost every one of my songs is there will be a spot where it's just a tambourine or a hi-hat going or in that case, just everything stops, but the bass is still going boom, 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 boom. Riding my scooter, riding my scooter, riding my scooter, riding. Feeling it.
Yeah, that was really fun. Yeah. What is your next song? Are you working on any new songs?
Well, we're going to tonight because you've taught me a lot of things about video editing. The next thing I want to learn is thumbnail because your thumbnails are incredible. And mine are weak sauce. They really are. But I was thinking tonight I was just going to show you how to lay down some loops and how to lay down tracks. Like usually Western music is in 4s, 8s, and 16s, and then layer and dynamics, and I can show you that stuff. I like to use an actual bass guitar that I'm playing and a guitar that I'm playing to give it a sense of reality. But you can do, like, for your purposes of doing, short 2 and 3 minute videos, you can do it completely electronic with loops and still make it sound good.
So I want to know, what does a wipeout of the handlebars sound like?
A wipeout, an endo?
Yeah.
We'll do a song. We'll call it Endo. Okay. All right. There you go. The creation of a new song, Endo. That must have hurt, man. Don't endo, don't endo. Judd Apatow, he told me so. You went ass over elbow. Don't endo, don't endo, don't endo.
It's gonna be loud.
I told you. And it will come to a crescendo. I told you. See, my mind is already going. So, Carl McLarty of McLarty Films, is a scooter in your future?
I always like to say I can't predict the future, but it could be. I think, if I lived within 20 miles of a place in an inner city where I needed to commute, I think that would be a very good choice. And can those scooters go onto public transport?
20 miles, by the way, I would say 5. I would say within 5, because that's already 10 miles on a scooter. And if you're weaving in and out of traffic and that's a great question. Can they go on transportation? The answer is yes. A Wolf Warrior? No. Would I take the Apollo Explorer? That is maybe the borderline top of what I would consider. But there are a ton of scooters designed specifically for that. There's a company called Unagi. They're kind of the Apple or Macintosh of scooters, I call them. They look sleek. They're easy to fold. They're light. And each scooter line, basically, that you can name has at the top kind of a B scooter. And maybe not at the bottom, they'll have a cheap scooter, but then there's a lot of stuff kind of in between that's designed specifically for travel. Now, the big question that I've been asking
Airplane.
on exactly, Thank you. You're reading my mind. On scooter forums, experts, everybody I ask, and there just is not that information out there. I only know of one scooter called the Levy, Levy, to where the lithium battery is in the handlebar stem itself and has a little hook and loop kind of thing that you can just pull the battery out, and it is designed specifically to be under the amperage or wattage that airplanes will allow. So what you do is you pull that battery out, stick it into your backpack, your carry-on, and bring it on board. And the scooter itself, you fold up and put into your luggage. That's the only one. I'm waiting for companies to come out with more innovations because I need that. I want that. I will buy one.
Yeah, that's a huge selling point. That would be important. To be able to take it with you. Pre-pandemic, I was traveling man, and that's a tough one. Like batteries, you have to mail them, and internationally, I mean, it's just impossible, right?
I, recently got back from a month in Ecuador. I go to Thailand regularly, Portugal, Europe. It would be so great just to be able to pull out and ride in my scooter, like literally my scooter, rather than all the research I do. And I try to hook up with a company that's going to let me use one, or if I pay for it. I find a lot of times what happens, I get an interview and they say, hey, just go ahead and take whatever you want. And right, if you look at the YouTube video I did from Tampa, Florida, and Fort Lauderdale, and the different Dunedin, the different videos that I made, where I interviewed Scott Carbone from eCarve, and when I went to Ecuador and other places, they're pretty good to me, I guess, because I'm Dagwood Streets, host of the Electric Scooter Podcast. So I usually don't have to pay, but I'm totally willing to pay, because wherever I go, that's the first thing I'm going to do is, where can I find a scooter? And I would like to have that answer to that question before I ever get on the airplane. I did call somebody from United Airlines who told me, hey, listen, I am a guy who literally decides whether or not people can go on and off. And he's saying that Levy scooter that you're talking about, I'm telling you, no problem. He said, in fact, think about people in wheelchairs and mobility scooters. They have lithium batteries that are way more powerful than what you're talking about. So you should have no problem. That was just over the phone. That was one guy, but he was a spokesman for United Airlines, and that's what he told me.
Yeah, I think what really spoiled it was a couple of years ago. What do you call those hoverboard things? Like where you put one foot on each side and I guess a battery caught
Exploded.
on fire in the airport or something.
Yeah. There was also Samsung had their phones exploding on airplanes and catching fire.
Yeah, but you can still take phones on the plane. So
exactly. So if you are in the right circumstance, would you consider buying one, or would you just do a commercial for some company in exchange for a scooter? That's something you could probably get away with.
Sponsorships are always good. And, before someone makes a commercial for someone, they really need to understand the product. So
if Cabo said, hey, we're sending you a wolf.
Yeah. If they sent me a wolf, well, actually I can already ride yours.
I've got a few introductions that I want to make very quickly before I start my remarks. First of all, I think that by the end of his tenure, we're going to know that
Dagwood Streets,
one of the finest
podcasters
we've ever had. So please give him a big round of applause.
I broke the kickstand on my Fluid Freeride Horizon, which is a scooter I love and highly recommend for people just getting into scooters that want something collapsible but strong and reliable. It's got a solid rear tire and a pneumatic front tire, and I broke the kickstand on that probably the second day that I owned it. It was a point of failure, so anything Dagwood Streets comes into contact with, whether it's a cell phone or a scooter or a 360 camera, you witness that as well. It's the point of failure is going to be found pretty quick.
Yeah, and I'm sure the brands appreciate your honesty, because a lot of these companies, these are very cutting edge new products, right? So they're trying to improve their products as well.
True. I won't name any names, but on YouTube, if you're trying to find out information about a scooter, I always say this, I always recommend watch Ginger on Wheels, watch the Electric Scooter Guide, watch Jimmy Chang. There are a few people out there that are very honest and very comprehensive in their reviews, but there are so many videos that are just strictly a commercial. I've ridden the Apollo Phantom. I know it does not handle well at low speeds. It has issues. Actually, it's okay. There is room for people to like it. I think the Electric Scooter Guide wasn't really brutal on it, but it doesn't mean they're not honest. It depends on your use case scenario for your scooter. What are you using it for? But there are so many channels out there that it's just a commercial. And I think they're doing it to get free scooters, or they're even getting paid. I don't know, but scooters that I've ridden that I know, to me, in my mind, well, in Hawaii we say is junk. That doesn't mean it's trash and not good. It just means it's not very good. So I see guys out there making full-on commercials for scooters that I would feel guilty telling somebody. Just because it's a stranger, I wouldn't do this. I wouldn't say, oh, yeah, that scooter's great, but tell my buddies, stay away. No, I'm going to tell everybody stay away. Or maybe not stay away, but this is probably not for you.
Yeah, it's difficult because you want to paint the product in its best light, right? To show like how they're innovating and the new things that they've done to make a better scooter. But at the same time, you want to find the weaknesses. So I understand that because I've done that with camera gear as well.
Sure.
So if you do get a sponsorship and they send you their camera, you're not going to tell the world, oh, this is garbage.
You've reviewed a lot of products on your channel.
Yeah, a fair bit. And I usually only review products that, I like to use myself that are cool.
Mm-hmm. And I've bought a couple. I bought my daughter the headphones that you recommended on your channel.
Yeah, I pitched those to everyone, and I've gotten them for family members as well as gifts.
And it's called Bone Conduction.
Yeah, I'm not going to name a brand, but the technology is Bone Conduction headphones. You're able to wear the headphones, and it doesn't actually go into your ear canal. It just conducts vibrations through your jawbone into your brain, and so you're able to run or ride or drive without obstructing your ear canal. So
that
you can
sounds
hear,
like that would be
safe.
Perfect for Scooterheads, doesn't it?
Yeah, and scooters aren't loud either, right?
Right.
So
you could hear traffic and everything.
yeah, so the volume is not too high. So if you have like a lot of wind or something, they're not that good. But for listening to podcasts, that's my favorite thing to do.
Maybe like say, I don't know, streetwise English for people in Greece and the Netherlands and other countries where we're popular. Or maybe, I don't know, maybe
The
Electric Scooter Podcast. Feeling it. There he goes, Carl McLarty of McLarty Films. Check out his YouTube channel. Check out Streetwise English, the podcast. Who would have thought that a non-scooter person would make such an outstanding interview? I was thoroughly intrigued and interested the entire interview, and I just wanted more. This podcast has gone 40 minutes. I try to keep it a half an hour, but it was, to me, just fascinating, the insight that he has. And he's helped me a lot to bring my YouTube channel maybe from junk to slightly tolerable. It's still not good, but that's on me. Carl McLarty, McLarty Films. Check him out. Thanks for listening. This podcast went a little bit long. If I can get Carl back on again, I think I'll probably do that because, who knows what other people like. I know what I like, and I really enjoyed that interview with Carl. So be back next week. I don't have anything planned. I don't know what I'm going to talk about, so stay tuned. And until next time, remember what Steve Jobs said, sometimes life hits you in the head with a brick. Don't lose faith. Even if you're seeing double.